Good afternoon, I'm Kacky, Walton. Checking on the Arts is made possible by contributing listeners and the Orpheum Theater. New Moon Theater Company presents Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus. That opens in a couple of weeks, Friday, October the 23rd, and it runs through November the 8th. They're staging that at Theatreworks, 2085 Monroe, Fridays and Saturdays at 8 with a 2 o'clock Sunday matinee. It is being directed by Maness, who joins me in the studio, along with the actor who's playing the title role, Greg Boller. Nice to see you both.
Nice to be here.
Hello.
So now, New Moon Theater Company, their mission is to do plays that aren't performed that often. And I was wondering, why do you think Titus Andronicus isn't? I don't recall ever hearing of a local production. And
No.
if there had been one, it's been a long, long time ago.
I don't think there ever has been.
Not here locally.
A regional
No.
premiere. We don't know.
The regional premiere
of a 400-year-old play.
Well, now, if there's one thing you can say about Titus Andronicus, it is that this thing is a bloodbath, just a out-and-out bloodbath.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why Gene Elliott chose to produce that with New Moon. It's a good play for Halloween.
That's
certainly.
true.
It's kind of Shakespeare's. A lot of people call it his Quentin Tarantino play, but I prefer to think of it as his Eli Roth play. For those of you out there that are film nerds, it's gratuitous and graphic and bloody and bordering ridiculous on the level of grotesquerie that mounts as the play progresses.
I mean, I guess when you think about it, back in the 16th century, this would be a horror movie, like a horror play, or they call it a revenge play.
Well, the revenge tragedy was the most popular sort of genre at that time. And certainly the spectacle of it was something that really appealed to the audiences. And reading this play and working on this play, you really get to see sort of Shakespeare's freshman work. He is really sowing the seeds of all of the stuff to come. There's elements of Lear and Macbeth and Hamlet and Othello and Richard III, and you can see these. I kind of call it his play. It sort of starts off these ideas that you can imagine generating into something and blossoming into something more beautiful later on. But he needed a blockbuster, and so he certainly got one. And at the time, it was probably his most popular work, certainly for a long time. It stayed in the repertory for ever.
Oh, my goodness.
And for modern audiences, it's almost it's an original Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just when you think things cannot get any worse, they do.
Yeah, everybody that flipped out over the Red Wedding episode of Game of Thrones, you get that for about 2 hours.
Pretty much.
Well, let's talk about the plot. Who wants to handle this, John, or do you want to do it, Greg? Who?
Oh, John, go ahead.
Okay, sure. Well, it's about this Roman general who comes home from fighting the Goths in the north. And the emperor has just died, and his two sons are kind of squabbling over who's going to be the next emperor. The people want Titus to be the war hero, to be their next emperor, and he turns them down and chooses the older of the two sons. So as a gift to him, he gives his war prisoners, which include the queen of the Goths, to the emperor, the newly crowned Emperor Saturninus. And because she is a vindictive person, starts to set in motion the revenges that she's going to commit on Titus and his family. And then within the first 24 hours of him being back in Rome, he starts to lose everything, and it all unravels until at the end he kind of gets his feet back under him, and he gets the last laugh, so to speak.
Well, the last laugh. Well, that's good. Well, talk about your character a little bit. You've been off fighting. Why you got to bring back the people as prisoners? And you start all this stuff in motion.
Actually, yeah, I think Titus is the one that pretty much causes the mayhem that's about to result. This is a man that is ruled by honor and tradition and religion, and he doesn't listen to the Queen of Goths, who's pleading for her son's life, and he has every opportunity to set him free, but he says, no, tradition dictates, we're going to take him out, and sure enough, he does. And of course, that sets in motion this horrible wheel of revenge and mayhem that he and his family get swept up in. So it's what happens when all of tradition and honor and rule of law and, everything that we believe in very, very passionately suddenly comes crumbling literally in front of you in a matter of moments. And then what are you left with? Well, what you're left with is sort of the moral clarity of revenge, and that's what happens throughout the rest of the show.
So, this is, I guess you can say that it asks a question that's relevant even today. I mean, is revenge ever justifiable?
Well, and that's kind of, I think, one of the things that he's sort of plays with, Shakespeare, that is, plays with in the language is where does revenge stop and justice start? And that's not a real clear line in this play at all. Things escalate. They've got to outdo each other in order to. One person does one thing, so they've got to do something more outrageous to get revenge on this person, which spurns something else, So, what starts off as a traditional sacrifice to the gods at the beginning ends up becoming this bloodbath mayhem by the end. There's another character in there named Aaron, and he, in fact, for hundreds of years was the plum role. Even though Titus is the title role, everybody wanted to play Aaron. And he's just an unrepentant villain. Like there's nothing good about him, and he revels in his villainy. I mean, he in fact, one of his last lines is that I only wish that I had, done 1,000 more bad things. He wants to just sow chaos wherever he goes. And yet his character with Titus, they kind of trade places over the course of the play. Aaron, who starts off as this sort of complete sociopath, learns to love something over the course of the play, whereas Titus, who ends up losing everything and starts off with this very rigid idea of honor and his place in the world, sort of becomes this. We sort of talked about him being an artist of murder.
Artist of murder.
Because he doesn't. It's not just about getting revenge. He has to do it in a very outrageous, personally symbolic way.
And probably one of the first instances of true poetic justice.
Right, exactly.
It's really what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to watch what I eat from now on.
Right. Yeah,
I brought you pie.
There you go.
I'm on a diet.
A play that deals with, certainly dismemberment, rape, cannibalism, certainly murder, of course. I mean, just pretty much any taboo gets dealt with at some point in time.
Wow.
In this play. Yeah.
Well, Shakespeare knew who his audience was.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I want to ask you this. I asked Greg a little bit when he first got to the station. This was the first question I had, actually, was, what has it been like for you to stage this play in the intimate space at Theatreworks? That has to present somewhat of a challenge.
Well, Theatreworks is such a really interesting area to play in, and I've gotten the opportunity to design the set as well as direct. So we've even actually made it even more intimate by bringing the seats in. So the oftentimes when you go see a show at Theatreworks, it's really wide, and we've kind of cut the edges off, and so the actors are literally in your lap through most of the show.
All of that carnage is right there
Absolute
at your feet.
Splash zone.
Bring a poncho.
Right. Like a Gallagher concert.
Oh my goodness, we have about a minute. Do you want to mention some other folks in the cast?
Sure. One of the people that I'd like to especially acknowledge is Jim Dale Green is playing a character that we've kind of added into the show. Since it's a play that is not as familiar to most people, he's a narrator that kind of guides us through the plot points, the finer plot points, and he sort of serves, I guess, as the footnotes that you would read at the bottom of any script of Titus Andronicus you might have. So Jim Dale Green is in this. We've got Greg Zatowski, Evan McCarley, Jared Graham, Stephen Brown, Aaron Shelton, Jeremy Simmons. Just Lyric Malkin is, after taking a long hiatus from theater, is coming back with with a raging triumph to perform in this play. So, we've got a really stellar cast. If you want to see some really fine actors do some fine work, come and see it.
All right. Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus opening 2 weeks from tonight, Friday, October the 23rd at Theatreworks and running through November the 8th. For tickets, you can call New Moon Theater Company at 484-3467 or go to thenewmoontheater.org. Titus Andronicus being directed by Maness and starring Greg Boller. They've been my guest this afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kacky.